Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and yes, this is the first video that we've done in the newly decorated room. Obviously because of space limitations and things like that, the good old-fashioned white door is still in shot, but there's not really much we can do about it. But today we're going to be taking our look at the Corsair RM series power supplies. Now I've got a few of them here. We're going to be concentrating the testing on the RM1000 mainly. One thing I do want to say right from the very get-go with this is I'm still very much the novice with the sunmoon. And I don't mind admitting that. I will put my hands up. I actually actively encourage you to pick me up on anything that I may get wrong. And you know, to point out, because it is going to be very much a learning curve with me, which is why it's taken so long, because it's been it's a very daunting bit of kit. And my problems with that bit of kit is that generally with power supply reviews, you've got the people that don't really know anything, which is where I class myself, and then you've got the extreme experts, and there's not really a lot of ground in between. So I'm quite comfortably going to be saying very much, you know, this is going to be a big learning curve for me, and I'm kind of hoping that the regulars will follow me through. One of the interesting points with when it comes to the actual power supply testing and the like, though, when you think about it, is because my knowledge of this subject is basic. As I'm learning and picking up new things, new terminology, and learning how things work, hopefully we're going to be able to put those through into the videos to perhaps educate you guys a little bit more as well. Because one of the things, even before I did this, or before I had this, before I was even reviewing an overclock 3D, let alone owning it, power supplies are something that I've never ever skimped money on, and these will all be kind of topics that we will pick up in the coming future as my knowledge progresses and how I can explain things to you better. But anyway, Corsair last year, because obviously it's 2014 now, they did release the RM series power supplies, and I've got my notepad because they released a range, and I had to take a few notes. There's not a massive amount of them on there. There's not a script, but there's a few notes there just so that I can pick up the specific things. And they released a 450, a 550, a 650, 750, 850, and 1000. So quite a range there. The 450, the 550, and the 650 come in one kind of bracket with one lot of internals. The 750 and the 850 come with another set of internals, so slightly different. And then the 1000's right out there on the end with its own, completely different PCB to the other two groups. So there are, although they're all in the same group, the actual internals on them, there are 3 different types. But what we're going to do is I'm going to bring you in, and obviously we want to see what's in the box and the cables and all that type of stuff. Then we will crack one open and have a look inside. Then I'm going to bring the sunmoon into the shot so I can show you some basic tests. Now the main thing people want to see is talk about rail stability. So whether when you put it under load, whether the rails stay delivering the same kind of volts, but also the ripple on the rails as well, because obviously the ripple is really the bit that kills more than anything else. So we will bring the sunmoon in. We've got a laptop set up, so we've got an oscilloscope and stuff like that to show you. We can't really talk about noise because the load tester actually makes so much noise, and these things are so quiet you just couldn't differentiate between the two. There's quite a few little things that I've picked up with these that I really like, and I think you'll be quite interested to see them too. So very much, if you do watch right the way through the review and you've got some things that you did like, you really liked, or you didn't like, please you be very vocal about it in the comments underneath, because it's going to be a learning period for both of us, and we can tune and tailor these things so that they are better. Obviously I'm not going to waste your time with a 10 or a 15 minute review, because I've already wasted loads of your time already, and I'm going to go into it in the kind of manner that I've become accustomed to, or you've become accustomed to with my videos. And that's, if you're looking at spending this kind of money, you're not going to mind spending 20 minutes, half an hour listening to some British geezer going on and on and on about all the little nitty gritty things, including his phone going off in the background. But it's now time for us to bring the camera in and we can have a good look. And yeah, I'm just going to be quiet. Okay then, so moving on to the outside the box, because we do need to cover what it says and what it, all that kind of mean fandango. And the main points in the bottom left-hand corner, as you're looking at it, are optimised for silence. Then we've got fully modular with flat black cables. I will show you the cables and the actual unit itself in a moment. And then gold level efficiency. But it's up here, we can see that it says 0 RPM fan mode, which again I will talk to you about and go into some depth when we start the testing. But also a 5-year warranty, and that's kind of it does speak a lot about the quality and the I can't think of the word that I'm looking for. The faith. That's the word I'm looking for. The faith that they've got in the product, because they give you such a long warranty. I mean, there's quite a lot of power supplies out there I see still coming out with just a 2-year limited warranty, and this one's got a full 5-year one. Now, something else that we can do is when we look around at this side of the box, it gives us lengths of the cables. And on this side, the 24-pin cable up here, it says that it's 610mm long. The 8-pin EPS, which is your CPU motherboard power, top left-hand corner of your motherboard mainly, the 8-pin that goes up there, that's 650mm long. And the PCI Express cables, there's 4 of them. There's 6 plus 2, so that's 8-pin or 6-pin, you choose. They're 750mm long each. So we don't really need to look at all the stuff around the back that way round, because that's how you see it. That would all be rather boring. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide the brown box straight into shot, and that would be what would be inside of the other cardboard box. Now, one thing I do need to stress is we have had this open. It has been used in a couple of builds already, and it obviously has been on the sunmoon as well. So we've put it back together on the inside as close as we possibly can do, but I just wanted to stress that it's obviously not a retail fresh box. We open it up, and all of their power supplies seem to come in this black foam, and it's quite a dense foam, but it does the job of keeping the actual unit itself safe, and we can see that there in its black plastic bag. We've got the cables here, which I'm going to not get out and show you for the minute. They are all black and flat, but what I'm going to do is we're going to have a good look at these, just so that we can have a look at the quality and the ends and all that kind of stuff. You do get your power cable in the box. You get some zip ties and a powered by Corsair sticker. One thing I do see a lot, there we go, is these being put on cases, but like on the front, and they always end up looking like, they do very much look like you've just stuck them somewhere. If you want to use these, that's all well and good, but please put a tiny little bit of thought into it, or get them even and level like the others. So, and think of the best place to put it, rather than you thinking that just because it comes in the packet that you have to use it. Obviously it's personal preference, but generally when I see these things used, I cringe. It's almost like with a lot of badges like this, and you see like a line of them on the front of someone's cases, all at different levels, never, you know, kind of match or look similar. I normally call these noob badges. So look beside your case now, and would it look better without them? Maybe you could lose your noob badge. It's very much like your virginity, boys and girls, and you should strive to lose your noob badge, but obviously in the most grown-up and adult and kind of sensible way possible. Yeah, that's enough of that. Anyway, so there are some manuals and stuff inside, warranty guides, the manual on how to use it. To be fair, if you don't know how to use a power supply, I'd be very worried that you'd actually bought one to install yourself in the first place. But we're going to take the unit out now. Now, I'm obviously very Hudson and Hall, so we're going to get rid of the box, and I'm going to keep the plastic. Oh no, I don't want to keep plastic. I wonder if Jay will actually think that I need that mouse mat that he's been using all morning, because I don't want to start denting my lovely desk. Right then, boys and girls, so we'll move on to a look at the unit itself. Now we've got it on the nice top thing, I don't need to worry about bashing it around too much and marking the surface of the desk, because we obviously want to try and keep them nice and clean now we've got new ones. Anyway, so the first thing that we can see in the top is the fan, and it's not specifically an AF or an SP series fan. It's a specially tuned fan that they've built for these units to pass air through the unit to cool the components inside as quietly as possible. Now, if you want to just kind of try something out while you're there to understand what I'm saying, If you take a case fan and hold it in your hand, then it won't make that much noise. But then when you start to put it up against the front of a case, against a grill or a dust filter or something, you'll hear the noise level of the fan go up. And that's because of the turbulence that's being caused by the air being pulled over your grill or your dust filter, or, you know, whatever it is. So the fact that they've managed to tune this fan to be really, really quiet, whilst, let's face it, pushing the air over some quite complex componentry inside this power supply. And I will open it up and show you in a bit. You can also see that the power supply still has its virginity. I've not taken the warranty label off yet, but we will be popping that bitch and opening her up later. Anyway, so they've done really well to keep that, and I will show you some fan demonstrations as much as I can do later, but the best way that I can show you really is with the load tester, and that obviously does make an obscene amount of noise. But anyway, I can assure you they are redonkulously quiet. You can see we've got the grill on it. Now I'm trying to get it in the right sort of angle. The grill is raised from the actual unit of the power supply itself, but it all follows the same kind of like flowing design. And it's also kind of nice that they've put the Corsair logo on the fan, because then when it's inside your case, you've not really got to worry about which way the logo is going to be pointing, because sometimes when they have them fixed, they push down, and I don't know about you, but I normally end up having mine facing the outside of my case so I can see the logo, and I'm forever taking power supplies apart to do that. Now when we look on the side, we can see that the RM's yellow. And now I'm only assuming this, but obviously Corsair do have their brands follow colour patterns, and the old yellow was TX. So I'm assuming this is going to kind of fit in there. But the thing with the RMs are, they are being marketed at quite a competitive price, especially considering they're gold rated and they are so quiet, and fully modular as well. And the price is kind of, they start at around the £70 mark, and the 750 that I've got here is just below 100 quid, and the 1000, as we'll see in a bit, is 148. So very, very competitive pricing, so that's probably understands it. Obviously the yellow could tie in with the fact it's gold rated as well. We move around the back, we see the large mesh area. Obviously this is the exhaust. A lot of people seem to think that the power supplies suck air in through the back, and they don't. They actually exhaust it out the back. Also, it's a common misconception that you have to have the fan pointing downwards, sucking the air in from outside your case. Now, power supplies don't really get that hot unless they're being put under extreme load, and it doesn't really make a lot of difference. They don't design them to be put up or down. If you remember the old days when ATX power supplies used to be in the roof of your case, you had no air filters or anything to be able to suck cold air in, and they were at the very top of your case, and they sucked all the hot air from inside your case then as well. Obviously keeping them slightly cooler is nice, but if it's in the bottom of your case, all the hot air is going to be going upwards anyway. So it's just, like I said, it's a common misconception. You don't really have to worry. I always do mine so they look better, and I quite often like to see the grill of my power supply from the inside of my case rather than a sticker like that where it's got the specs and stuff, which, to be frank, is ugly. So I would rather have mine looking like that from the inside of my case than looking like that. But again, it's personal preference. If we move round to the back section of the case, or where the back section is actually going to be the inside section, because this is where your cables go. You've got the two set connectors here, and that's where your 24 pin go. You've got 3 connectors there so that you can have a CPU 8 pin and your PCI Express, and then you've got another 4 connectors over here that you can have your peripherals on. Now this is the 750. The 1000 watt has a few more connections than this, so you know, this is the 750 model. The 850 model's got more peripherals, you've got more PCI Expresses, so yeah, just remember that this isn't the same across the whole range. You've also got this little C-Link connector here. Now, the C-Link connector does bring us on to another topic, because I've got it out here. And essentially, what you do is, I'm going to have to bring the power supply back in. You get your C-Link connector and you plug it into that bit there. Okay, so we're going to put the power supply out of shot now. But the C-Link connector has two ends on it, and it looks like they should be fan connector cables, but what you get with it is this little baby, and this is an analog to digital converter. Now the analog to digital converter is because basically your power supply on this is analog. All of the other ones that go in and connect up to all the link, the AXIs, they're digital. So you need this, so this can talk to your Corsair link, you know, and go in and be able to be connected in on your motherboard. Something else to kind of stress as well is that the AXIs, you can connect the power supply straight up to something like the H100i, because the H100i acts like a Corsair link hub. This doesn't. If you've got a H100i already, this actually has got another USB internal header on it. So if you're running a H100i and you buy an RM power supply, you are going to need two internal fan headers if you want to link it all up with the software on the system. But essentially all you do is it's a 2-pin cable, they slot together, the 3-pin slots together, which does very much look like a fan cable, and then that then goes off to your USB header. Now the long C-link cable, this side that goes off to the power supply, is 800mm long, and then you've got the analog to digital converter as well. So it wouldn't really matter if you're in the top of your case, bottom of your case, you know, your case is inverted or anything, you're going to have plenty of cable. But also the flip side of having plenty of cable is it could mean that you've got a fair bit to, you know, loop up and tidy up. And the best way I can tell you to do that, because obviously we go into a lot more detail than a lot of other places, is if you get your cable, I'm trying to keep you in the middle, if you get your cable like this and loop it up, you can, and obviously this will probably be around the back of your motherboard anyway. Then when it's around the back of your motherboard, you can have that all tidied up, and then it means that you've not got, you know, big loops or spaghetti junction. And also when you get power supplies, you get a lot of these little things. Yeah, Tom, get it into shot. They're like little, I call them sandwich bag ties. They're little black things, and what you can do is just grab hold of one of these and you can twist them together. And I'm not obviously, you know, rushing this because I'm doing it on camera, but if that was round the back of your case, that is going to be much tidier than having just, you know, loads of loose cabling and stuff like that. So that's a really nice way of being able to, you know, tart things up. Okay, so right, we've got the cables. Now this, we used this power supply in the 250D review. So we just had some zip ties that we needed to take off of it. But anyway, this is your 24-pin cable, and you can see the split end that I showed you before, and that then goes off to your flat black 24-pin end. Now you can see we've obviously had it in a motherboard, but that's what you're going to see when you have it in the motherboard. And the great thing about that is when you look at it, you've got no coloured cables or anything showing at the end, so you've got black flat cables, black flat connectors on both ends, and that's your 24-pin. When it comes to the PCI Express, that is the end. Get it in shot, Thomas, come on. That is the end for your PCI Express, and then you've got 6+2s, and they're what I would call daisy chained. And I actually really like these because if you've got a single graphics card, it's more than likely going to have two 6-pins or a 6 and an 8 or two 8s or whatever. And then I just use one cable to drive my graphics card, and then that means that you've got a lot less cabling to try and hide and less cabling going into your power supply, so it all ends up looking tidy. And I've never ever, because obviously I use a lot of graphics cards, a lot of power supplies, I've never used a daisy chain power like this and swapped it for two individual cables and then magically got a higher or more stable overclock. So I've got no qualms with suggesting that you use one of these whatsoever. So anyway, so that's your PCI Express cable, and then I just wanted to show you the SATA cables as well. Obviously we've got Molexes, but the good thing with the SATAs is, again, is with a lot of power supplies, you'll find that you do end up seeing colour here, or they're braided and the like, and it's just all black. So you could do a properly stealthy rig with one of these. So that's your SATA. And the Molex, if I was just to grab one, it's the same old story. It's good, high quality. The cable isn't, particularly it's not all soft and pliable, but at the same time it's not overly stiff that you feel like you're going to snap it. It just gives you a nice quality feel to it. But the other kind of thing that you can do with these units, and it's something that Corsair do very well now, and they've expanded the range a lot, is you can buy individually braided cable kits for these. Now, one thing I will say is generally what you do is you buy your kits in two parts. You buy yourself a 24-pin cable kit, which is the thing that you need to make sure you get the right one for the right system, for the right power supply. The RMs and the AX digital, so the AXIs, actually use the same 24-pin power cables. But then all of your ancillary cables, so like your PCI Express, your 8-pin CPU, your SATA, your Molex, all of those come in another separate box. So you have to make sure you get the two. Now you can, with these, like I said, you can, excuse me, you can get them in all of these colours. They've just released, this is what I would call the new blue, because the old blue was slightly darker, but they've redone the blue. They've just released, and I love these two. This is a gunmetal grey, and this is a green. It's a very lime green. It's a bit more lime green than I was expecting it to be, but it's very kind of, all you NVIDIA fanboys will go, you know, fall arse over tit for this. This colour does match the Gigabyte sniper boards very, very well as well. But one thing you can see is the cables inside are the same kind of colour as the braid, so you don't see any kind of like red or yellow or, you know, any kind of black bleed through any of these. But you obviously do, compared to slightly differently with the flat braided or the flat cables rather, you do have some heat shrink at the ends. But for all those OCDers out there, if I get it so it's actually in line, you can see that they are very, very close to being perfect. They're not absolutely like thousandth of a millimetre perfect, but I've seen some much worse jobs out there where people have tried to do it themselves. Now the 24-pin cables, I think they're about £15 each. It roughly works out about £65–70 for you to get a full set of cables for your power supply. Now, some people are going to say that's expensive, but let me kind of put things into context for you a little bit here. Not only do you not have to go and buy all the braid, the tools, the heat shrink, everything like that, but you get a full set of cables that you're not going to have to spend hours upon hours, if not days, redoing. But at the same time, it's a direct replacement. So it's not cable, you know, it's not extensions or anything like that. They go right from your power supply, right the way up, and it means that you keep your warranty. So I actually like these just for the sake of ease of use. You've got plenty of colour options there now. If you're just going for your stealth, you can go for your braided black. If you're a bit like me, you're probably going to end up using red or white. But obviously you've got the other options there as well. You can smash a bit of blue in there if you want. I'm actually, I have to admit, the gunmetal grey is nice, and it's growing on me a lot. And that will be because if you think about it, it means that it's not going to be as understated as the black, but people are going to know you've got a custom kit in there, but it's not going to be the type of thing that's going to be shouting to grab your attention. This is going to be the pretty girl sat at the back of the classroom that's going to have her perfect hair or everything, that doesn't think that she needs to open her legs to get attention. This will be the intelligent kind of looking one. And the red and the green, these are going to be the ones that are, yeah, they've got no brains and that kind of thing. Oh, I know my analogies just end up going off on a random one. Anyway, so you can get these, and like I said, another good thing is with the RM that we're looking at today and the AXIs, the cables are 100% transferable between the two. So for instance, if you did buy these and end up upgrading later on to the AX1200i or the AX1500i or something like that, you could take your cables and then take them straight over, and I think that's brilliant. And I do hope that Corsair do carry on following that footprint forward, because it would be nice to stop the confusion, but I completely understand why they do it. Now we've been here for an awful long time. We've still not even seen one of these units lit up yet and having some power drawn on it. So I'm going to break down now, and I'm going to get the sunmoon in, and we're going to warm this room up, and it's going to be the first time I've ever tried using my microphone with that thing running. So this could be interesting. Okay then peeps, so on to the section where we actually pop the hood on the power supply itself and take a look at inside. Now what I'm going to do, I don't know the inside of these units, where a lot of people, you know, can look at them and know exactly what each component does, exactly what role it plays. And my knowledge is still very basic, but I am trying to learn this stuff. But anyway, what I do, in case you're interested, there is a diagram which I'll put at the end of this segment, just so that it shows you kind of a map around the unit and what each bit of what each component does. So I'll put that at the end for you. But I have removed the 4 screws in each corner, and I have broken the warranty seal, so she's no longer a virgin, boys and girls. We have deflowered her, but we're going to pull this section off, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll it over this way, because obviously the fan is still attached and I don't want to completely dismantle it. I think the easiest thing for me to do is kind of zoom you in a little bit, and I'll leave it where it is now. So we have got this section, and it is pretty much 2 halves, and if you imagine this half that I've got covered up being the secondary section, this section around the outside here is the primary section. Now there has been a lot of hoo-ha about the fact that this doesn't have all Japanese capacitors running in it, to the point that there is even a blog post on the Corsair website explaining why they don't use jack caps for everything, and the fact that really you don't particularly need to either. The 2 big meaty ones here are jack caps. The other ones on the secondary side aren't. Now there are a lot of reasons why you don't particularly have to, and really the fact that everyone, you know, all the hype around the jack caps all comes down to one thing that happened when a Chinese company tried to copy some jack caps, and the electrolyte was wrong from, you know, years and years and years ago. But really, if you read the guide, or, you know, the blog post or whatever like that I've put underneath, you'll kind of understand that, you know, this unit is pretty much over-spec'd anyway. They are designed to run at 40 degrees C for like 15 years. So the fact that they're not going to be running 24/7 at 40 degrees centigrade anyway, you know, they're actually designed to run for so much longer. Obviously with any electrical component you can get failures, and you know, that's the same with everything. And obviously another thing that you need to think about is, of course, they give you a 5-year warranty with these things anyway, so you've really not got a humongous amount to, well, you've not got anything to worry about. I don't want to say you don't have a humongous amount to worry about. Like I said, I wanted to pop it open and give you a good look. Obviously this is the side where all of your connections go on, because it's 100% modular. This is where the power comes in, and then like I said, it goes off around here. Now these are the primary, on the primary side, and these are kind of these capacitors are trying to filter out any leftover ripple from the alternating current that comes in, because obviously we've got 50 hertz coming in, and we need to then turn it into a direct current. So it does get quite complicated. So these do the first job of trying to stabilise that the voltage, and then the secondary ones, which are the Chinese ones, which is what everyone's been flapping about, saying that it's substandard, but it really isn't. These are just really here to filter out any residual ripple on the lines, and essentially, you know, components and power supplies and everything have come on in leaps and bounds, even in just the last few years. So the one thing I can say is really go and have a look at that that blog post, and I think it will clear up a lot for people. And like I said, I understand the basics about what's going on in here, but I'm no master, so I'm not going to try and explain it to you. So what I'm going to do now is make the magic list of everything pop up if you're interested. It is the internals for the RM1000 that I'm going to put up, but the 750 and the 850 are different internals, and the 450, 550 and 650 are slightly different internals again. But the last thing that I will show you before we go off is the back of the fan, and like I said to you before, that it had a special code number, and it's the NR135L, and you can see it kind of just nestled away in there. It does look like a cross between an AF fan and an SP fan. It's quite a difficult one for me to kind of explain to you. But anyway, So that's that, and it literally, the top does just fold straight back on to the top again. Or it will do when I get it on there properly. But anyway, so I will get this all put back on for you. Luckily, I've done my testing before I took it apart, but it's going to be, I'm going to be using this in future videos and reviews anyway, because it's so quiet. I love it. But you'll see that as the testing progresses. So while I bugger around with doing this, I shouldn't really be doing it on screen. I'm going to put this back together, and we will move on. Okay then peeps, so on to the part that I am scared of, I am most nervous about. So we'll start with the basics. This is the first time you've seen me use this power supply tester in a video. And just so that everyone knows, this is something that is going to be a big learning curve for me. It's something that I am going to be evolving learning. So I'm probably am going to get stuff, you know, little bits and bobs wrong, but I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that I've got the basics kind of down now, and I will try and explain things to you how I understand them. If anyone wants to kind of contact me and say about stuff that I have got wrong, then because obviously there are quite a lot of YouTube comments, then it's probably best that you either send me a personal message on YouTube, or the easiest way is to get in contact with me on the forums. But we've got our sunmoon 5500 ATE. Now this is a simulated load tester. We can use this, and the noise is this, by the way. If I was to turn it off, everything suddenly goes quiet and kind of, you know, oh, what's gone wrong? Anyway, so we've got our simulated load tester, and it's got 6 12-volt loads that I can put load onto the power supply. So we can load up your 24-pin, we can load up your 8-pin EPS, we can load up your PCI Express, and essentially completely max out the possibilities of your power supply. So with a simple flick of a switch, I can put a 1000-watt load on this power supply in, you know, milliseconds. Now, because of my understanding between this, now I do understand all about cross loads and stuff, but it's not something that I'm going to be doing in the reviews as you know, as we go forward. Also, I have tested quite a few different power supplies, but I was testing the other power supplies when it first arrived, and I didn't fully understand what was going on. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this as like our base point, and then I will add stuff to the reviews, and we'll eventually build up a bulk of data that we'll be able to use in future reviews. But we've got the RM1000 on today, and I picked this one because I want to show you something quite cool that we can do when we do add a little bit of load to it in a minute. Now, we've not got any studio lights on, so this is the native room lighting that we've got on at the moment. It's just the lights on the ceiling, which is why you can see there's kind of like different levels to it. But also, I didn't want to turn the studio lights on and it become difficult for you to read the readout on the load tester itself. And in a minute, you will be able to see the oscilloscope running as well, because this is going to tell us the ripple on the rails. Now obviously the most thing that people want to hear about when it comes to power supply is ripple, and then how stable the loads are, which is kind of the same thing. But yeah, when you're running a little load, your 12-volt rail will be a little bit above 12 volts, and then when you put it under maximum load, you'll see that it can drop a little bit, and it's really how much it drops. You'll see I've got my phone here. It's because again, in a minute I'm going to show you something quite cool with this. When we put it under load, and we're going to put a stopwatch live, and essentially what we're going to do is we're going to wait to see how long it takes for the fan to start, you know, when it's running passively. And the stopwatch is just there so that, you know what I mean, that there's no it's a really easy way for us to show you. Anyway, so what we're going to do, the load tester, I'm just going to flick it on quickly. It has a selection of readouts that I will be able to show you, but I've essentially got 4 different loads set up. And I'll just run through them all quickly for you now, although I will explain things more in a minute. I'll get Jay just to zoom you in on this kind of area, not too much, as I still need to show you all the buttons. Right, so we've got the old load tester going there, and all I need to do to switch between the two is flick between those easy 4 buttons. What we're going to do is we're just going to flick it on. Now you can see that time's just popped up there. It said 275.6. That's your power good signal straight away there, and that's the time that it took the power supply to tell what would be your CPU, okay, power supply is working, you can turn on, and you get the power good signal. Then you also get the hold up time. The hold up time is the amount of time in milliseconds that if you were to get like a power loss or a drop in power quickly, like little spikes, that's the time that your power supply will be able to work and it not cause any restarts or shutdowns or, you know, complete power offs or anything like that. And just by switching it off again, it goes 29.73, that's milliseconds, so 29.73 milliseconds, that's our hold up time. And that's, you know, that's something straight away that we've got there that we can test. So at this present moment in time, you can see that we're putting the power supply under 101.5 watts of load, which is roughly 10%. We've got 10%, 20%, 50%, and then a full 100% set up. This up here, 49.9, that's our frequency, because obviously in the UK we have alternating current, and that's our frequency there. You can see here 101.5 watts, that's what's being pulled from the power supply. This 115.0, that's actually what's being taken from the wall. So the power supply tester actually gives us what's being taken from the wall and what's being taken from the power supply, and through that, this is our efficiency rating here, which is quite cool. Up over here, 238.3, that's actually the volt. Obviously in the UK it should be around the 240 mark, but you know, you've obviously got differences, but that's what's being delivered to the unit, and this is the total amps being drawn from the unit at the moment. Obviously as we change the load, these levels will change as well, and obviously as you can see there, I've just flicked it up to 20%, which is 198, and you can see that we're now pulling 215 watts. So that's that side of things. If I come back out of this, also what we can see is our rails. The 12s that you can see, 12, 12, 12, 12, because I've got all 6 loads lit up. That's your 12 volt rail voltage. This is your minus 12 volt rail voltage. This is your 5 volt rail, and this is your 3.3 volt rail. Now we can only see these when we've got it under load, and at the moment it's still under that 100 watt load, or our 10%. Now for efficiency ratings, you generally check your 50% rating and your 100%, but your 50% is the main one. Now when we do the 50% run, because I have saved it for you, I'm going to flick it over so that we can watch that, because I think this is the one that we want to watch more than anything else. But what we're also going to do is we're just going to show you a quick look. We're going to pan up quickly and show you the oscilloscope. Now your oscilloscope, we've got that running there. We actually need to move it over a little bit. Again, we're running this at 100 watts, and up here, this is your millivolts. This is actually the readout that you want to watch the most, is that top one, because it will go up as we increase the wattage drawn on the power supply. The number underneath is the negative. That's actually the reading that the volts go below a 0 point, because it does go above and below. And then the bottom one here is the maximum voltage. So you've got a minimum voltage in the middle, maximum voltage there, and then you've got your peak to peak at the top. And the peak to peak is where we take our millivolts from. And if I was to flick it straight up to 500 watts, which is 50%, we can see there. Now, I do want to say that I have set this graph up, so it is going to look quite big. We've got a very short time base of 2 milliseconds at the top. And then our volts divider down the bottom is on 0.01. If I was to change this, I can change the look of the graph massively. But what I've done, and we'll do this throughout all of the videos that I do, I've done it so it's quite big. Each one of these boxes is 10 millivolts basically. So if you can see that we're going kind of between the two boxes there, and we've got a 23, 24 millivolt at 500 watts, and that's our ripple on the rails. Now I don't want to have that running for too long, because again, what I want to show you, I'm going to pan out quickly, and something that we should get back to a normal point. Jay's just bugging around with the camera. Okay, so we can just see the power supply here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my phone, and we've got that ready, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to flick it onto a 500 watt load. Then I'm going to start the stopwatch, and we're going to watch the fan, because one of the things with the RMs is they do run without any fans for just an obscene amount of time. And even when we do eventually put this on a 1000 watt load, I think you'll be quite surprised how little this fan is going to spin. So I'm going to, hopefully at the same sort of time, we're going to go 500 watt and we're going to go. So now here you can see we're pulling 500 watts. The stopwatch is running. Hopefully you can see that, because obviously it looks like you can. I will show you anyway. You can see up on the oscilloscope we've got 24 millivolts of ripple across that there. And I'm just going to hold this here. Now I'm going to leave the camera running, but I will just cut back in, because I'll cut a section out. I will cut back in when we get to the fan spinning up. So I'm just going to sit here, and I'm going to save you the pain. Just coming up to the 5-minute mark, and it's all still running. Still no fan spinning. Still pulling 500 watts. So yeah, I'm going to sit here for a little bit longer. Okay then peeps, so we're coming up to the 15-minute mark now, and the power supply still hasn't started the fan. So just to kind of reiterate what I'm trying to kind of emphasize here, is the power supply is having 500 watts pulled from it. It's pulling 544.3/68, do you know what I mean? Let's say 545 watts from the wall itself, and yet it's still remaining perfectly passive. To put this into context for you, when Orca with their 2011 chip is rendering up a video for YouTube, I see about 325 to 350 watts being pulled from the wall. A gaming system, Haswell, overclocked, with a 780 Ti, will pull about 400 watts from the wall with the graphics card completely maxed out. Chuck a 290X in there, you might push up to 450, 500 watts. But the kind of level that I'm trying to explain here is, unless your room gets really warm, we're a comfortable 20 degrees held in this room at the moment, although the power supply tester will eventually put the room temperature up, and we're now at 16 minutes and we've still not got a fan yet. Is that this unit, as you've seen, is capable of running passively for obscene lengths of time. Now I'm going to leave the camera running because I want to show you how long it takes for this to finally kick in. Now I can feel around the back of the unit itself that it is starting to get a bit warm now. I don't want to say hot because it's not. I can tell that it's on, I can tell that it's, it's running, but it's not hot at all. It's just, it's slightly different temperature to the front, and I'm obviously using my skin to kind of gauge it as well. But yeah, we're almost up to 17 minutes now with it running at 500 watt. Hey, there we go. So we'll change that. Now, the point again, we got up to practically 17 minutes on my the stopwatch. I can feel now that the fan is, you can feel nice warm breeze coming out the back, but let's face it, I don't know whether the camera's going to be able to pick it up, but that fan, yes, it's spinning, but it's not whizzing around. There was no like 100% panic, like what, cool everything down kind of level. Just a little bit of a spin up like that, and then that's it. And even now with that, obviously it's now got up to its operating temperature that it wants to have the fan running, it's still silent. If you put your ear right against it, you can hear a little bit of electrical noise, but I still can't really hear that fan, and it's absolutely ridiculous. So while we've got the camera running, this is the other thing that I wanted to show, is we've obviously got it running at 500 watts. So what I'm now going to do, I'm going to put it under the load for the power supply, which completely maxes it out. And we've obviously now just spent 17 minutes getting this unit up to temperature with a 500 watt pull. I can feel there's a warm breeze of air coming out the back of the unit now. So I'm now going to put it under twice as much load, the full rated maximum for the power supply, which is 1 switch, and then we'll see if it has any effect on the fan speed. But while that's running, what we can now see is up on the oscilloscope, we can see that we're now up to our oh no, come on, come back to me, don't go to sleep, thank you. So we can see that we've got 45.6, say 45.8 millivolts of ripple on that 12 volt rail. Now a rough school of thumb is around anything less than about 60-65 we would deem as being a good unit. If you can get a unit running at its rated maximum below 50, you've pretty much got a very good unit. Corsair have always been very critical with their ripple, and when you kind of see this levels of ripple, this kind of just affirms the fact that they the fact that they've not got jack caps right the way through the unit. Just goes to show that it's not really making a humongous amount of difference there. Now back onto the actual power supply itself, it's still not really raised that fan up, and I can say that I've left this running 1000 watt to the point where my load tester was starting to get warmer than the power supply to the touch around the outside, and this fan didn't start to spin anymore. Just by looking at it, I reckon we're probably looking at about 700 to 800 RPM that fan is spinning, just to kind of put a number in your head. And it although I can feel there is a nice warm breeze coming out the back of the power supply, there's not massive torrents of air or anything, and it is ridiculously quiet. Now what I can show you here, if we go onto the power supply tester, Jay's just changing the camera for me again. Now what I did want to show you is you can see that we're running 1000 watts give or take, and our efficiency is 88.7. Now for you to be able to rate the power supply as a gold rated power supply, this needs to read 90, but that needs to read 90 at 50%. So we're getting almost 90%, well we'll say 89% efficiency at full load. If we pop it down again to 500 watts, you'll see that it resorts itself out, because it does take a while to recalibrate it, and then we're back up to 91.8%, so it's above. Now one thing I will say is I'm testing on 240 volts, and the ratings for the efficiency are based on 110. Now I do have a 240 to 110 volt step down, but I knew everyone in the UK, which is obviously, I'm British, so I'm presenting to those, would want to know both rates, but then we're obviously just as much presenting to the Americans, so I'd have to test twice. And to flick the difference on the back of my load tester between 110 and 240, if I forget to change it back and then I suddenly put 240 through, I kill the load tester. So I did spend a lot of money buying a step down, but I'm just too scared to keep having to do that switch, because I know one day I'll forget. So I'm going to start from the very beginning doing it at 240. So the fact that we're well above that 90% means good job. And as we obviously do more and more power supplies, you'll also start to see that we'll be able to kind of gauge the differences between the two. But if we smash that back up again, you'll see it will sort itself out, it adjusts itself, and then we're at 89.2. Now this can change as the unit starts to get warm, believe it or not. It's something that I have noticed on other power supplies. We've obviously already done a burn-in on this. We've been sat here with it running at 500 watts for 20 minutes, and then we put it up to 1000. What we also need to look at, because I can hear Mr. Johnny Guru shouting at the screen, is look at our wattages. Now we are running 1000 watt here still. If I click back, it's not the wattages, it's our volts. See, I'm still getting confused. So 11.98 is this is our 24 pin. And this would be our 8 pin, and then the other ones are the PCI Expresses. So we can see that we've got 1198 on this one, 12, 1199, 1201. So we've all got some it's pretty damn good voltages considering the level of amps that we're yanking through those. And if I just flick this switch quickly, which puts it down to 500 watts, you'll see that it does make a huge difference in the actual voltage on the rails. So this isn't something to worry about. This is normal. This is the type of thing you can expect. But if it goes down, you know, much more below, sort of like, you get about 5% with ATX spec, and we're well within that kind of level. But if we were to start seeing sort of like 11.7, 11.6, that would be the type of times where I'd start to worry. But the fact that we're getting 11.98, so you know, only just under 12 at 1,000 watts, absolutely brilliant. So yeah, nothing to worry about there. Down to 500 watts, 12.1, 200 watts, 12.13, down to 100 watts again, 12.14. So that's that, all lovely jubbly. One thing that we can see, if we zoom out again, is that because the unit is now up to an operating temperature, the fan's still spinning, even though we're only pulling 100 watts. Eventually it will cool the components all down inside, and this fan will completely stop again because it is thermally based. So if you live in a warm country, it may spin up a little bit before. It's not just based on watts. But yes, that's enough of all this now. I really do need to move on to a conclusion, but also at the same time, the void sticker is still on. I actually need to go back and film me taking this apart now, just as the fan stops. How lucky. Okay then peeps, so we will move on to our conclusion, and what I am going to do is I am just going to, because it's still running, I'm going to turn everything off so that we get the power supply tester quiet. Now get ready for the bleep. Scares me every time, but it means that we're now in a quite quiet environment. And what we do with the awards and everything, as we do, you know, with the reviews normally, we say about the award and then we explain why. Now, to start off with, I'm actually going to give the RM series, because I have tested the other ones, but obviously I knew I would have a lot to say, and I also knew that people will see that little kind of number, how long I make these videos for, and I generally don't tend to watch the very long ones. So I decided just to test the Big Daddy one, and then you can kind of work out the rest for yourself on the others. But I'm going to give the range the silent award, because I've been absolutely dumbfounded with how quiet these things remain throughout the whole of the wattage range. I've had the 750 on, and I had that running at 100% load for like 25 minutes, which is an obscene amount of wattage to be pulling. And still it remained quiet like this. You saw with this one, we warmed it up first, then we smashed it onto 1,000 watts. And to be fair, if you actually manage to pull 1,000 watts from one of these units, then you know what I mean, you God knows what kind of rig you're running, and to the point where you probably should have bought something slightly higher rated. But even when you're absolutely maxing it out, they still stay quiet, absolutely quiet. And you wouldn't believe the amount of power supplies out there that even pulling kind of normal levels of wattage, which I will say for a normal gaming rig and stuff, they actually pull from the wall, depending on the spec of the rig, somewhere between 300 and 500 watts. I've had power supplies in these rigs that have made more noise at those kind of wattages than this did pulling 1,000. So that's where the silence award comes from. I know it's not completely silent, but with electrical components like this, you're never going to get something that's never going to make any noise whatsoever. But it deserves it in a fact that it just so quiet, it's unreal. Then I'm also going to give them the gold award, because when you think about it, they're so well put together. The price is really good. You've got 100% modular. You've then also got the options that you can buy your braided cables, which don't void your warranty. They're direct replacements. They look pretty damn good as well when you think about it. And you get a 5-year warranty with them. This one was almost before being able to do a gold specification run at full wattage, when you only technically need to do it at 50%. But as you can see, At 50% it was like 92, 92.5, so that was well in there. And also the voltage stability on the rails, you know, the actual voltages that it was delivering were brilliant. And then you also had the ripple, which was, you know, the most I ever saw the ripple at 1000 watts was 48 millivolts. Again, brilliant. So there's, I know I've not done cross loads and stuff like that, but that will be stuff that we will evolve together. But no matter what you say with the results that I've seen, and let's face it, compared to a lot of other reviews, you've seen the results live. It's not like I'm just showing you a graph. You've actually seen everything that we're talking about today. So there's no kind of qualms or, you know, bits and bobs. Hopefully, I've not got any of it wrong. But that is a gold award winning power supply. But as I've said, I have done the 750 and I've done the 450 as well. And just to kind of put things into context, although the 450 being the low baby brother, that, you know, if you're trying to save some money, that will still be able to power the majority of gaming systems. If you talk kind of mid-level, so you're talking like GTX 770 and an i5 and stuff like that, you could easily run it on the 450. I'm not saying that you should, I'm just saying the unit is capable of it. And where the fans don't spin up that badly, even when they're on full wattage, or, you know, full load, you're not really going to know it's there either. But I would have thought most of you out there, I think the kind of 650, 750 is going to be the ones that you're going to go for. And a 750 watt version of one of these in a single card gaming system with, do you know what I mean? Even if you were running, say, a 4770K or even a 2011 processor, that 750 watt power supply will more than likely hardly ever spin the fan up unless your room is really, really warm or you've been, you know what I mean, you've not slept, you've been up all night just because a game's come out. The power supply may eventually come out of its deep sleep and kind of go, oh, okay, well, you know, we'll push a little bit of air through. But they're unreal. And like I've said, I've shown you 500 watts and we had it put on, pulling that kind of wattage, which is 50% load, for 17 minutes before the fan even decided to turn itself on. Because it brilliant. I love it. And it's just one of those ones, I've been so scared of doing this. I'm hoping that the granddaddy power supply tester, Mr. Johnny Guru, will kind of give me a thumbs up. I don't expect a pat on the back because I've taken too long to do it. But I hope I've kind of got enough gist here. I will keep trying to expand things as we go forward. But this is the first of many, I hope. Not I hope. It will be the first of many. I may need to have a little bit of a break now. But anyway, a little bit of a break. Yeah, he says there's piles of them. Anyway, Corsair RM review. We've given them the Silence Award, which is just completely well worth it. And obviously the gold for the performance that they put out as well. So, for now, at least, this is Tiny Tom Logan with another video for you. Out. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. Madman.